She stood there knee-deep in regret and dust, staring at a gravestone that, to the untrained eye, looked like any other. Chipped, scratched, and featuring a name that might as well have been engraved in ironclad memories. Jonah Varel, it read, along with the kind of titles that made one suspect either heroic sacrifice or a very bad mistake. Presumed dead, martyr, earthborn. She whispered it quietly, almost reverently. Forgive me. The words hung in the air like static on a broken radio frequency. The alien woman, once queen, now penitent, touched the cold stone with fingers that had ruled empires and signed death warrants, but now trembled. Her ears twitched, long and elegant, catching every murmur of the desolate moon around her. You're probably not even here, she said softly, probably just a rock beneath my feet. But if you are, she swallowed a lump that felt like a collapsing star. Forgive me, Jonah. Behind another tombstone, nondescript, covered in moss and thankfully lacking any fancy epitaph, a man blinked. He was supposed to be dead, atomized in a failed wormhole jump. His name was Jonah Varel, last known captain of the Free Solar Fleet and amateur interstellar curmudgeon. His first thought was, well, that's a new one. His second was, note to self, maybe invest in better hiding spots than under your own damn tombstone. The third was an involuntary snort that nearly gave him away. She didn't know he was alive. She thought she was speaking to silence, to memory, to the void itself. But Jonah was very much listening, sitting awkwardly behind a gravestone and trying not to make a noise that sounded like a dying space walrus. Forgive me, she repeated louder this time, hands clasped as if she was pleading to a deity who had probably filed a restraining order against her. I never meant for you to get lost, abandon ship, become space dust. Jonah's voice cracked out before he could stop it. The alien woman spun around, eyes wide, drawing a plasma blade so fast it sang a note sharp enough to shatter glass on 3 planets over. You're alive? She demanded, voice a mix of disbelief and something dangerously close to irritation. I'm alive, Jonah said, standing up slowly, brushing moss off his jacket. You're the one talking to a gravestone like it's your diary. He grinned, the kind of grin that said he was fully aware how ridiculous this all looked. Not exactly the usual way to make amends, but hey, to each their own. She lowered the blade, the light dimming from fierce blue to a dull hum. I thought you were dead. Well, you're not exactly a genius at planning funerals either, Jonah said, stepping out from the shadows. I mean, you did pick a spot with 0 cellular coverage. Who even gets reception on a moon that's basically a rock with commitment issues? The alien queen sighed, running a hand through her tangled hair. I didn't plan any of this. I only came because, her voice faltered, because I thought I owed you that much. Jonah laughed, a sound rusty from disuse but genuine. Oh, me? You ruled a damn empire, and you're worried about owing me? That's rich. It's not about the empire, she said quietly. It's about what I did. To you. She glanced away, ears flicking nervously. I ordered it. The betrayal. The ambush. The great disappearing act that got me labeled dead and lost in the void? Yeah, I remember. Jonah shook his head. I was beginning to think you just wanted a vacation without telling me. Not a vacation, she snapped, then caught herself. Look, I don't expect forgiveness. Maybe just understanding. Jonah raised an eyebrow. From the queen of half the galaxy? Understanding? You're really milking the drama, aren't you? She smirked, despite herself. I try. They stood there for a moment, the dead moon silent except for the soft hum of distant starcraft and the occasional sputter of a failing comm beacon. Jonah glanced at her armor, scratched, battered, but still holding that regal weight, and then at her long ears twitching with each noise. You know, he said, those ears are weirdly distracting. I get that a lot, she replied, crossing her arms. It's a genetic quirk, nothing to do with the drama. Right, genetic quirk. Like the time you ordered a solar flare attack because someone misplaced your favorite tea set. She rolled her eyes. That was strategic. Strategic destruction of a planetary cafe? Got it. They both laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the emptiness. The tension, thick enough to compress atoms moments ago, started to dissolve like a nebula under solar winds. "So," Jonah said, "what now? You came here to say sorry to a dead guy, but surprise, he's alive and a bit grumpy. What's the next step?" She looked at the gravestone again, then back at him. "Maybe we start by talking. Really talking. No crowns, no fleets, just you and me." Jonah smirked. "You know, for someone who lost me in space, you sure know how to find me at my worst." She shrugged, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "It's a talent." They stood there, two figures caught between war and peace, regret and hope, a universe vast and indifferent all around them. And somewhere, far off, a star winked out, as if the cosmos itself was waiting to see what they'd do next. Jonah glanced at the gravestone one last time. "You owe me a hell of a lot of explanations," he said. "Then I better start talking," she replied, "because you're not the only one who's been hiding." And with that, the alien queen and the man who should have been dead began to unravel years of silence, one awkward joke and confession at a time. Jonah squinted up at the sky, or what passed for a sky on Saradoon, a perpetually gray smear that could have been an overcooked nebula or someone's bad space painting. "So you want to talk?" His voice was rough, like a starship engine after a bad jump, but there was a glint in his eye that said he wasn't about to run. Yet. She nodded, folding her arms across her chest, the long ears twitching as if they could catch every little lie he might try to hide. "Yes, we owe each other the truth at least." She glanced at her wrist computer and flipped it open with a practiced flick. Time dilation, wormhole theory, failed jumps, and one very badly timed explosion later. "You're alive against all odds." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "The galaxy still hasn't forgiven me for that. They think I abandoned you." Jonah scoffed. "Abandoned? They have no idea. I wasn't exactly planning on ghosting the universe. I just got lost." He waved vaguely at the rocky moonscape. "Lost in space is an understatement. I was stuck in a quantum limbo, which is sort of like being on hold with the Galactic Federation customer service but without the soothing elevator music." She rolled her eyes. "Always the comedian. Well, somebody's got to keep things light." He poked at a nearby gravestone with his boot. "How about you? What's your story? Still conquering empires or trying to fix the mess you left behind?" She hesitated. "The empire is fracturing. Rebellions, power struggles, planetary uprisings. You name it." Her eyes flicked to the horizon. "I thought if I confessed to you, maybe I could find a way back to the woman I used to be, or at least figure out who she was." Jonah's grin widened. "Confession, huh? Don't sound like the queen I remember. More like a guilt-ridden barista spilling galactic secrets over espresso." "Barista?" She smirked, lips twitching despite herself. "I suppose it's better than being the warlord who accidentally turned 3 moons into asteroid fields." "Hey, the moons were being unruly," Jonah said, mock defensive. "A strategic necessity." "And the casualties?" she asked sharply. Jonah shrugged. "Collateral damage, or as I like to call it, those who didn't get the memo." She laughed, a sound rare and warm, like sunlight breaking through the ion storms. "You're impossible. Someone has to be." He pointed at his chest. "Besides, I was supposed to be dead. You owe me a proper funeral at least. I'm a man of tradition." "You would have hated it," she said softly. "They held a state funeral in your honor. There was crying, speeches, and a hologram that looked suspiciously like it was made by a malfunctioning droid." "That explains the singing." Jonah rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm still traumatized." They fell silent, the weight of years pressing down but softened by shared humor. Then she said, "Do you know why I came here? To this graveyard of forgotten heroes?" Jonah raised an eyebrow. "Besides the free Wi-Fi?" "Because I needed to speak to you, to the memory of you. I was trying to make peace with what I did, with what we both lost. And now that I'm standing here, very much alive and probably smelling like a swamp, what does that change?" "Everything." Her voice was steady now. "Because you're not just a memory. You're here. And I can't keep hiding behind apologies whispered to stone." Jonah chuckled. "Apologies whispered to stone? That's almost poetic for you." "Only almost," she sighed. Look, Jonah, there are things you don't know. Secrets kept even from you. There were forces working against us. Enemies in the shadows who wanted this war to continue. Enemies, huh? Sounds like a classic space soap opera. Jonah shook his head. Next, you'll tell me there was a secret council of alien raccoons. She smiled, the ghost of a laugh on her lips. Not raccoons, but close enough. A coalition bent on chaos, profiting from endless conflict. They engineered our downfall. Jonah's eyes narrowed. So, you're saying we were pawns? More like trapped pieces on a galactic chessboard, she admitted. But now, knowing you're alive, we might have a chance to checkmate them. He rubbed his chin, considering. Checkmate the universe? That's ambitious. Well, if we're going to survive, we have to be. Together. Jonah grinned, flashing teeth worn from too many battles and not enough dental care. All right, Your Majesty, lead the way. Just promise me no more surprise disappearances. She held out her hand, long ears twitching expectantly. Deal. No more disappearing acts. He took it, the weight of the past lifting, if only a little. And somewhere in the vast silence of the cosmos, a faint beep sounded from her wrist computer. An alert, a reminder, or maybe just the universe's way of saying, buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Jonah looked at her, eyes gleaming with mischief. So what's the first step on this little take down the shadow coalition plan of yours? She smirked. Step 1, find better snacks than protein cubes. Jonah laughed. Finally, something we agree on. And with that, two broken souls, bound by war and laughter, began plotting a future written not in stardust and regret, but in hope and absurdity. She sat across from Jonah in the cramped cockpit of the Starling, the stolen star cruiser that smelled faintly of burnt circuits and poor decisions. Jonah fiddled with the navigation panel, trying to remember which button did what without accidentally launching them into a supernova. So you're telling me, he said, that the entire galaxy is basically controlled by a shadow group that's been playing us like interstellar chess pieces? And we only find out because you decided to confess to a guy you thought was dead? She rolled her long ears back in mild irritation. It's more complicated than that. But yes, more or less. These shadow players profit from war and chaos. They keep fueling conflicts to control resources, manipulate governments, and feed off the misery of billions. She tapped a glowing hollow screen, showing a web of connections between corrupt officials, rogue factions, and mysterious financial flows. They're called the Consortium of the Void, Jonah whistled. Catchy name. Sounds like a bad nightclub. Don't mock, she warned. They have spies everywhere, even here. She glanced at the blinking alert light on the console. We're on their radar now. Jonah laughed. Of course we are. Because why wouldn't the galaxy's most notorious missing man and ex-queen be high-priority targets? She smirked. We need allies. Like who? The Free Solar Fleet? Jonah shook his head. They declared me dead and sent a search party to burn my ship to stardust. I'm not exactly their favorite son anymore. Her expression softened. There are still those who believe in you. A handful of rebels, old friends, even a few who question the consortium's influence. Jonah raised an eyebrow. Rebels? Like space pirates with questionable hygiene? Not all of them, she said with a laugh. Some are idealists. Others are just tired of the endless war. Sounds like my kind of crowd, Jonah grinned. I'll raise a toast to that once we find decent alcohol. She shook her head. Priorities. Jonah tapped a button, and the ship hummed as it shifted course. So, what's the plan? We go hunting for these mysterious puppeteers and expose them? Sounds risky. She nodded. Risky, yes, but necessary. If we don't act, the war will consume everything. We'll be the last generation to fight or to live. Jonah looked out the viewport, stars streaking past as the Starling jumped into hyperspace. You ever think about just running away? Every day, she admitted. But running doesn't solve anything. True. Jonah rubbed his chin. So step 1, find the rebels. Step 2, find out who's pulling the strings. Step 3, crash their party. Precisely. She leaned back, a rare smile breaking through. You make it sound so simple, Jonah shrugged. Life's complicated, But that doesn't mean we can't have a little fun. He grinned. Besides, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. Or worse, listen to more of your royal speeches. She raised an eyebrow. Careful, Captain. I might just start charging you for those. They shared a laugh, the tension easing as the ship sped toward uncertain futures. Somewhere out there, the consortium of the void waited, unaware that two of their most notorious adversaries were already plotting their downfall. Armed with wit, stubbornness, and a questionable playlist of ancient Earth music. Jonah glanced at her, eyes gleaming with mischief. Ready to shake up the galaxy? She nodded. Let's make sure they never see us coming. And with that, the alien queen and the man who refused to stay dead set course for rebellion, redemption, and whatever chaos the stars had in store. The starling drifted through the black between stars, a speck of rust and defiance in a universe that didn't much care for either. Jonah leaned back, one boot resting on the control panel as the ship's soft hum filled the cramped cockpit. So, Queen of the Galaxy, what's our game plan for infiltrating a shadowy, galaxy-spanning conspiracy that probably has access to more gadgets than a tech bazaar on Korath Prime? She tapped her long ears, thoughtful as always. We don't storm the gates like a bunch of space barbarians. That's how we got ourselves nearly vaporized the first time. Her eyes flicked to the holomap, where blinking dots marked potential allies and enemies alike. We move quietly, gather intel, build alliances, and hit them where it hurts. Jonah snorted. Sounds like a lot of sitting around and awkward conversations. Not quite, she smiled slyly. I know a guy. A guy? Jonah's eyebrow twitched. That's very specific. Very specific, she confirmed. His name's Dex, a hacker, smuggler, part-time informant, and all-around pain in the neural net. He owes me a favor. Jonah chuckled. Great, a shady hacker named Dex. What could possibly go wrong? She shrugged. Everything. But Dex is good, and we need him. The ship's comm crackled, and a garbled voice filled the cabin. Starling, this is Dex. I hear you're looking for me. Meet me at Theta Station, and bring snacks. I'm starving. The voice dropped off with a digital wink that only Jonah seemed to imagine. Snacks? Jonah grinned. You did mention food. Priority one, she said firmly. Nothing kills morale like bad rations. The journey to Theta Station was punctuated by Jonah's attempts to decode the Starling's ancient entertainment system. He failed spectacularly. This playlist is worse than a serenade from a drunken holobard, he complained. She just laughed, ears twitching. At Theta Station, the duo slipped past security drones and wandering mercenaries to a dimly lit cantina where Dex held court over a tangled mess of wires and glowing screens. Dex looked up, eyes sharp and amused. Well, if it isn't the galaxy's favorite fugitives, to what do I owe this pleasure? We need information, she said, cutting to the chase. About the consortium, about the war. Dex grinned, fingers dancing over a keyboard. Information's my business, but it's expensive. What are you offering? Jonah raised a brow. You want food? Dex laughed. Funny. I want access to the Starling's weapon systems. Something tells me your ship's not just a glorified rust bucket. It's more than that, she said softly. It's our home. Dex's grin faded into something almost serious. All right, deal. But be warned, once you open this door, there's no going back. The hacking began, lights flickering and data streaming in bursts faster than a supernova. Dex pulled up files, encrypted transmissions, secret meetings. The consortium's reach was staggering. Corrupt politicians, mercenary fleets, even rogue AI units programmed to stoke conflict. Jonah whistled. They're everywhere. She nodded grimly. That's why we have to be smarter. Strike where they least expect. Dex leaned back, smirking. You're playing a dangerous game, Queen, but if anyone can pull it off, it's you. And your living legend of a captain. Jonah chuckled. Living legend? More like the galaxy's worst kept secret. Dex waved a hand. Details, details. Now let me show you what I found. He pulled up a holomap highlighting a secret consortium base hidden beneath the surface of a dying star. A star? Jonah blinked. That's ambitious. Deadly, she agreed, but also a perfect place to disappear. Dex's fingers danced, overlaying schematics and security protocols. If we can get inside, we might find the evidence we need to expose them. Jonah shook his head, smiling despite the danger. You know, when I signed up for this, I thought I'd be dodging space pirates, not sneaking into a star's core. She laughed, ears flicking playfully. Life's full of surprises. Dex grinned. So ready to become legends? Jonah glanced at her, the weight of their mission heavy but lightened by camaraderie and jokes. After you, Your Majesty. The starling powered up, ready to dive into the heart of darkness, armed with hope, defiance, and just enough humor to keep them sane. Jonah grinned as the starling coasted out of the star's dying embrace, sensors buzzing with data that could topple empires. So, he said, stretching limbs that hadn't quite forgiven years of quantum limbo, we actually did it. We broke into the heart of the beast without getting turned into cosmic dust. She chuckled, long ears twitching in amusement. Against all odds, yes, Dex's hacking skills were the starship fuel that got us through the firewall, and the security droids. Speaking of Dex, Jonah glanced at the flickering holocom where the grinning hacker was already plotting their next move. Think he'll stick around or vanish like a neutron star's glow? Knowing him, he'll be orbiting us like an annoying satellite, but we'll take what we can get. Jonah's smile faded for a moment, eyes thoughtful. You know, when I first knelt at that grave, whispering, "Forgive me," I thought the story ended there, with death, regret, and silence. She nodded slowly. And now? Now it's about forgiveness, between us, for the past, for mistakes. It's about living, even when the universe seems set on erasing you. Her gaze softened, almost vulnerable. I was so sure that losing you meant losing everything, that the empire, my crown, my legacy were all I had. But they're not. What matters are the connections we make, even broken ones. Jonah reached out, fingers brushing hers. So what's next for the queen who asked forgiveness at a grave that wasn't quite hers? She smiled, the weight of 1,000 stars behind her eyes. We rebuild, not just the empire, but trust, hope, and maybe, just maybe, a life beyond war. He laughed softly. Guess I'm lucky I'm not actually dead, huh? Lucky for you, she teased, but maybe luck had less to do with it than stubbornness. Jonah shook his head with mock offense. I prefer to call it unparalleled survival skills. They shared a quiet laugh, the galaxy sprawling endlessly before them, full of unknowns and possibilities. The consortium's grip was broken, exposed to the light, their shadows scattering like cosmic dust. Dex's voice crackled over the comm again. You two planning a victory party or just gonna keep playing space rebels with a cause? Jonah grinned. Both. But first, better snacks. She laughed, the sound echoing through the cockpit like a promise. And maybe a better playlist. Deal, Jonah said, eyes shining with newfound purpose. Together, they set a course for a future neither had dared to imagine. One forged not from power or regret, but from forgiveness, resilience, and the unyielding hope that even the darkest stars could be reborn.